Show presents Scratch a Track,
the podcast where we debate which track to scratch off some of the most known and unknown albums of all time.
We live in an era of singles.
This is an album.
People no longer listen to an album for the work it truly is.
It kind of defines a band.
It's just not something that people relate to nowadays.
We've all gotten the dreaded.
It started out as a game.
Which track on the album would you scratch out if you had to? Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Scratch a Track podcast presented by The Dude and Grim Show. I am The Dude.
And I'm Grim, and we are going to talk about the album Plastic Beach today by the Gorillaz.
Yes, we are. And what a concept it is. Like Radiohead, we're like, hey, we're going to make one song called Fake Plastic Trees. Gorillaz was like, we're just going to do a whole album.
Yeah. Fake Plastic Beach.
Yeah, Fake Plastic Beach.
Yeah.
Dude, somebody's got to be doing some sort of mashup or mix up, right? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Dude, Fake Plastic Beach. Dude, I kind of like that.
Yeah, it is really good.
Sweet, man.
I don't know why they wouldn't, but
I don't know either.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do they like each other? I don't know anything. I mean, they're both UK, right? Or I mean,
yeah,
I guess
that doesn't mean
I guess
a whole
Damon.
lot.
It doesn't. I mean, Radiohead and Oasis aren't exactly BFFs either. So,
Well, and I did watch the initial Gorillaz documentary. That was kind of about their formation. I think it basically went through the first two albums.
yeah,
Which I think is self-titled and then Demon Days.
I think so. I believe so.
And in that, there's a comment about where a fan says to him that they think that to them that the Gorillaz is like their generation Pink Floyd. And I guess if someone had ever said a comment like that to me, being an avid Pink Floyd fan, I would have been like really taken aback by that. Like, wow, thanks. Sure. But Damon Albarn's comment was, well, yeah, not exactly, because unlike Pink Floyd, we make tunes. And I was kind of like, oh, man, that's a little bit of a dig. I mean, what are you going to go after the Beatles next?
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. I mean, you could take it maybe.
But he's probably just dicking around too. So,
yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah.
Damon, please.
But I've always, I like their music. I remember hearing especially Clint Eastwood when it came out, because that was the big single. And I liked it because at the time I was listening to Deltron 3030 and Del the Funky Homo Sapien.
Look at the Homo Sapien.
He's the guy who raps on Clint Eastwood.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, Dan the Automator produced that album, Deltron 3030, and then subsequently produced the Gorillaz' first album. And I don't know if there's some carryover there as to that's how he got on the track, or they knew him because of the Deltron album, or, whatever. But I do like that crossover.
Yeah, and I think most casual listeners, the songs you would know would be, Clint Eastwood, and then the other one's Feel Good Inc. off Demon Days. Those are probably their the radio friendly unit shifters, probably. Would you say?
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, but this album itself, I mean, dude, if you look at, we'll get into it a little more when we start going through the tracks, but if you look at a lot of the guest artists or a lot of people it features, I mean, dude, the list is insane, man.
Yeah.
And some very ones you just wouldn't normally think of, right? Like for when I say this type of music,
wouldn't have expected Lou
Reed, Snoop Dogg, Mos Def. Like, dude, did you read that fucking Engelbert Humperdinck was supposed to be on it?
Yes, I did. Dude. I did. Well, and the only reason Bobby Womack made it on there was because his daughter was a big fan of them. Otherwise, I don't think there's a good chance that he wouldn't have been a part of it, which is cool because, I mean, I don't know how you could have Stylo quite the same without him on there. I mean, he kind of makes that song. And there's an interesting story during the recording process. I guess he was just belting it out for this song. And I think he's a diabetic or something. And his blood sugar was getting low, and he like actually passed out at one point and then like ate a banana and came back.
It's in a way, it's kind of similar to the last podcast we did about what was it? Raw Power, when Iggy was writing for one of the songs and he actually OD'd in the middle of writing it.
Yeah.
And then woke up and finished writing the song. This is a little different than that, but I'm sensing a theme here. But.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I am obviously his not being, from the result of a heroin overdose, but
definitely not.
Low blood sugar is not to be messed with, my dude.
Dude, don't fuck. Yes, don't. Yes, please get your blood sugar what are you drinking there?
A mango habanero cider today, dude.
Ooh.
I kind of wanted to go with. See, now I guess I read the lyrics for "Welcome to Plastic Beach" that Snoop Dogg's on, and he says something about sitting in the shade, drinking lemonade, getting blazed with a gang of pilgrim. Yeah, I thought he meant like pilgrim, like the rum, like a gang, like a gallon. Because he says a gang of Tanqueray, like in some of his old music. So I thought he meant like he just had a gallon of Pilgrim, rocking it. I don't have a gallon of Pilgrim, so I'm not, unfortunately, not.
Well, now he's in all of those Corona commercials, so I'm sure he'd have a complete different line. So.
Well, yeah, and see, I guess his guest appearance. So for me, the album, I got to give the shout out to our good friend Justin Leifer and his wife Claire. Because I think shortly after it came out, the three of us went camping, and I had not heard the album, and they introduced it to me and played it. And initially I liked it because starting with that orchestral intro right to the album, you have this feeling like, okay, this is a big, important body of work. Like, this is cool. And then it kicks into the track, and I'm listening to it, and I was like, Leifer, is that fucking Snoop Dogg? And of course they know, so they kind of laughed. And he was like, dude, there's all kinds of, and he starts telling me about the people on the album. And so for me, that memory of that trip and doing all that stuff is like forever cemented with this album, because it was completely new to me. And really dug it and have since.
Yeah.
So thanks, guys.
One thing I found interesting is, what kind of genre you would call this, because dude, I'm just looking at like Wikipedia: pop, electronic, hip hop, world, baroque, pop. Like it's got symphonic, tunes on it, and it covers so much ground. It's hard to pigeonhole it into just one kind of specific genre. And I think that's kind of what they were going for too, because it's obviously Damon, but then Jamie Hewlett, he's like the kind of his
visual artist
partner, the visual artist, but he was the co-creator of the comic Tank Girl, which I thought was kind of sweet.
Oh, didn't know that.
But he, the way he described it, he's like, it's kind of like a film without one narrative story. And it kind of reminds me, I don't know, I'm sure some people out there who are like film geeks like me, well, you don't have to be a film geek, but like Terrence Malick movies, he did like The Thin Red Line and Badlands, Tree of Life, if you remember those. But some of his later movies, they're based around characters and stuff, but there's not like, hey, okay, the first 20 minutes of the movie, we introduce the characters, and then there's a problem. We spend the next hour and a half figuring out the problem, and the last 10 minutes we ride off into the sunset. It's kind of all over the place. So like the Tree of Life, Knight of Cups, and Song to Song, it's more explorations of kind of people and the people around them and the things that they're going through, rather than. And when I was listening to this album, I kind of felt it was a little bit like that, because a lot of the guests on the album are almost kind of like characters and stuff all in themselves, and you're going to these different lands. And I know we're kind of building off the beach kind of theme, but it's almost like each song or each place is like a different island or a different land or area itself. And,
that makes sense.
It just had that. It just kind of had that feel to me.
But I think it does kind of have this overall theme of just like pollution and everything being disposable. I mean, like Super Fast Jellyfish kind of really gets into this idea of like the let's just say the to-go meal,
your Happy Meal. Right?
Oh yeah, I didn't know if I could say that.
Supersize me.
Yeah.
Oh, of course you can. Yeah, we're not promoting them. Actually, don't go and eat that shit unless you want to die young.
The triple cheeseburger is awesome.
Well, dude, it also reminds me of, that one. It's kind of that famous line in The Graduate where the guy, Dustin Hoffman, just graduated. He's trying to figure out what's going on. And the guy says, Benjamin, I just want to say one thing to you. Just one thing. Are you listening? Yes. Plastics.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude.
He's like, okay, just go.
Yeah.
He's like, I think he even says something like, how do you mean that?
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, plastic has definitely taken over the kind of our world. And now we're getting, I don't know, it's a big battle, obviously, of trying to get eco-friendly, but that was sort of, well, I guess maybe taking a step back initially, Damon and then Jamie Hewitt, they were working on this project and they were going to call it Carousel. And then, and then it kind of evolved because, into sort of Plastic Beach. Like Damon said, he was at his beach house and he looked
and there
down
was
to the
just
beach
shit
and there was just
washing up.
all this plastic. And dude, I'm sure you've heard about those places in the ocean, and the big one, it's called
the Great Pacific Garbage Patch.
Garbage Patch.
Or Gyre
or
whatever, yeah.
Yeah. So it's between Hawaii and California. But dude,
the currents circle, dude, and it just all collects.
The way it mixed. Yeah. Dude, it's 3 times the size of France. 80 tons of fucking plastic, man.
Well, and the interesting thing about that too is, the Midway Islands, which were kind of like a stronghold for the United States in World War II, those are kind of right in the middle of that. And apparently you can't travel to the Midway Islands as just a tourist anymore. And there's probably not much there, but scientists and stuff can go there, and these things act like a comb because the currents go right through them, and they just collect insane amounts of plastics, on the shores. And
it's pretty awful and sad. So please.
Well, I like speaking of that. I mean, we'll get into it in the song, but the one lyric, one of many lyrics I really like is, it's a Casio on a plastic beach.
Yeah.
Because Casios are classic. I actually have a Casio here, an old SK1. That was my wife's when she was a kid, because many kids in the 80s had a Casio. And they're just cheap keyboards that have kind of a nostalgic sound, and their beats are really, I don't know, they're just kind of cheesy. They're cheesy, but in a good way.
Right. Yeah. It makes you almost appreciate it more now. It's wow, it's so bad. It's good.
Oh, right? Yeah. It's just, it's like everything in the 80s, I don't know.
The 80s. I love the 80s.
Yeah. It's so great. So I think the concept of it is great, and the execution was done really well. And I think it's a 3 or 4 part series that's called The Making a Plastic Beach on YouTube. And I watched all of those, and they show some of the guests in the studio with them. And there were a lot of really good ones. The one I really wish they would have showed Snoop Dogg in the studio.
He would have been just blazed.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. But they did have a lot of good stuff. Although it was shot in a way that wasn't like what you'd think of as a documentary film, where there's kind of a narrative or a path that it follows. It's just like a mix mash of footage. But it's cool because it shows them recording the orchestra in that I think it's a Rolls-Royce plant. They recorded that orchestral part in a Rolls-Royce plant, and
Rolls-Royce factory in Derby, England.
Yeah, and that was really cool. Yeah. And then it shows Damon traveling. Derby. I don't know. Then it shows him traveling to Beirut to record the orchestra there, which their part is awesome. I think in White Flag, and I love how they did such a good job with keeping the tempo so that they could come back in once the beat was there, and it's to the beat, and it's really cool.
Yeah. Well, when I was reading a little bit on this too, there's a lot that was recorded for this album that has not made it out. A lot of people put in parts, and there's just extra songs, especially with the orchestral stuff and everything. There are like some bonus tracks. So, I mean, I think we should say that and I asked you about this. We're ending at Private Jet, but the
as
version
the
that
album would end,
yeah, the version I have downloaded includes Pirate's Progress and then 3 Hearts, 7 Seas, and 12 Moons. So when I had been listening to it for over this time, I had just kind of always included those last 2 songs, and it's weird. I find that happens with a lot of the albums I listen to now that you download. A lot of times there's B-sides or extra takes, and you almost kind of don't know like what where the album like really ends. But yeah, anyways, it's cool to have more material, but I think they did say that, and I haven't seen, maybe people out there know if that unreleased material has been released, or if it's a part of some sort of deluxe edition. But dude, I'd like to hear it.
Oh yeah, me too. I mean, what's there is awesome, and yeah, I'd certainly be interested in hearing more, because I mean, that was the whole concept, as far as I understand, with D-sides. Those were pretty much like unreleased material that had been recorded up to then.
Right.
Hence the name. One thing, I don't know if you're going into the recording, I like that, because I think when Gorillaz started, Damon Albarn had just built like his own studio, or put together his own studio in London. And I think a lot of it was done there. This one, it appears that they kind of went all over, but I like that they basically took on all the production at this point.
Yeah, dude, it's pretty. I mean, if you look at all the places that were recorded, like you said, the Rolls Royce, a beach in Devon, England.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the beginning sound, right? Like the beat. Yeah. But I think he went to that. There's another thing, Syria, and they cover this in the documentary, where the landfill site in Pitsea, England. I think that he went there specifically because he couldn't get enough like seagulls and stuff, right? At the beach. But I mean, you're at a landfill. There's going to be all kinds of birds, and that was the gist I got in the documentary, anyways. But
I thought you were gonna say it's because, like, what was it? Phil Lesh or Bob Weir wanted to capture. He wanted the sound of thick air.
Yeah, he wanted stinky air. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay.
But I like visually. Sure. I think one thing I always lose touch of with these guys is, I guess I've never been that tuned in. Like, I see the artwork, but I've never seen them live. And one thing I did read that when they went on tour for this album, this was one of the first time that they actually performed so that the audience could see them. Because prior to that, they would typically perform behind a screen, and all the stuff that Jamie Hewlett does would be like on the screen. So projected. It's almost like watching this live movie with its own soundtrack, which is cool. I've not been fortunate enough to see him in concert, and I would like to. But I think that visual aspect was always kind of missing for me, because I hadn't seen that other than, pictures and stuff you see. But
right,
dude, that picture on the front of the album, like, they made that. That is a gigantic model that they made and like photographed and stuff.
Oh, dude, that's sweet.
And they do show that in the documentary, and it's really cool because it's huge.
And here's the thing with that, man. Like, I see that, and I'm like, dude, I want to go to that place. Like, it seems pretty cool, man.
Well, theoretically, you could have, but you'd have to shrink. Yeah, like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids a little bit.
Well, it's funny that you brought up the their live performance and everything, because it was a while. I don't know. This must have been years ago, and I must have just had YouTube on and been listening to something, and then it just, how YouTube just selects kind of. After you're done with the video, you're probably going to like this one. So here, I'm going to put this on. And I swear it must have been Welcome to the World of Plastic Beach with Snoop Dogg, but it was the live performance. And I'm like, it's so weird because then Snoop just comes out on stage and it's like, whoa, this is really like, I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Like, it was pretty cool, dude, that he did that. I was like, oh, is that just a festival? And he's like a guest musician. That was before I really kind of got into this album.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I just, it was such a cool thing to see. It was kind of like you, when you heard it for the first time, you're like, is that Snoop Dogg? Like, cause it didn't fit mentally. Like, I just wasn't.
Yeah. I was in no way expecting it. And you know, to be honest, at that point I had no expectations of what this would be, because I hadn't heard anything about it. I think I was listening to D-sides fairly regularly, but I don't know that I really like followed them that closely to know what was going on with this.
Sure. Yeah. It's, and definitely now that I feel like I've been listening to the shit out of this album the past probably few months, I'm definitely going to get deeper into a lot of their other work, man, because I feel like it's just something I just need to know more about it.
Oh, you know? Yeah. And it's always really, I don't know, I find it really interesting. They use a lot of instruments, a lot of synths, a lot of different things. And that was one thing I wanted to say that hit me about this album, because at the time, around this time, I had got my first Farfisa organ, and I was not able to find anywhere that they directly cited it, but just listening to it, to me, like it was a Farfisa organ that they were using. Right. And so I got this little thing over here, and we'll kind of flip her around. If I can figure out how, I guess not. But you can see this little organ, and it's from the mid 1960s. And
damn,
if you hear it, it really.
Oh,
it's a little.
That is.
You know what I mean?
Oh, let's see.
That's.
Dude, that is in there.
Yeah, all those. Yeah, that's the sound. I mean, I could not mistake that upon hearing it. That was that organ specifically, and that riff that I played without playing it directly was kind of a tease to Pirate Jet, you know, at the end. Mm-hmm. But I hesitate from playing anything as a direct copy, because I don't know what that does to us as artists.
Exactly. Well, we do want to we want to be able to monetize these videos
at some point. But I just, that always struck me. I mean, I think it hit me. I heard it on World of the Plastic Beach. But one of the songs that I've always really liked that I cannot believe they didn't release as a single was Rhinestone Eyes. And in that riff to Rhinestone Eyes, I was like, dude, that's gotta be like a Farfisa in there layered with something else. Like that sound is too distinct.
It is very distinct. And that's one thing I found with this album, is that a lot of the, you know, keyboard synth playing and stuff, I mean, there's a lot of it's layered, and there's a lot of different sounds coming and going like throughout so many of the songs. So there is it is kind of a, you know, just the whole Plastic Beach concept and everything. But musically, I found that a lot of it is, it's still very different, but it's also kind of the same too.
There's definitely a theme.
There's a thread.
Yeah.
There's a thread for sure. So,
and I like it. The thread is kind of a really interesting mix of, like, I mean, many things, but some sort of a mix of just rock and hip hop, which, and done in a really tasteful and interesting way.
Yeah, no, it was for sure. I've definitely been surprised by it. Because when I'll fully admit, when I first kind of listened to it, I didn't really know what to think. I was like, this is definitely different. Like, I was like, I have never heard anything like this. Yeah. And so it's very, very unique. And I think that's what is where I've been gravitating it, you know, towards it recently too. So it's very, very cool. What do you say, Grim? Shall we kind of get into it here?
Yeah, with 16 tracks, I think we'll probably need to.
Yes, I think we will. Yeah. Well, we'll start off. The first one is actually fairly short, and not to say that I wouldn't count it as a track by any means, because I think it's such a cool way to start the album.
Absolutely.
And it really sets the mood and the tone a little bit, because I'm sure for people who were, huge fans of their first two albums, then you put this on, you haven't heard it before, and you're like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, where is this going? Right. So, it must've been a little, I wouldn't say a shock, but, it definitely sets the tone of the album. It's a pretty cool way to start it. You're in for something special, I think.
That's how I felt. And I would encourage you to watch that thing, because it's really neat seeing these people just in a factory, basically, in a large building, cleared out space, and with the conductor and the orchestra. It's really cool.
That is cool. So I think we can probably just quickly move on to song number 2, featuring Mr. Snoop Dogg, which is Welcome to the World of the Plastic Beach.
Yeah.
And you get right into the funk, man.
Yeah, I don't know how one could not like this song. I would have liked it regardless of whether or not Snoop Dogg was in it, but having listened to it the first time and like hearing his voice and having that like, oh shit moment, like, game over, like, you're immediately like, this is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I really like the obviously we have our intro with the orchestra, but even this song to me, I feels like it's like its
kind
own
of an
intro
intro.
too,
Yeah, I know what
right?
you mean. I know what you mean.
And so just the real the feel of it and everything, the way he sings it, but I just love, and I find myself saying this, I think, for a lot of songs in the album, I just love kind of the picture that the sound paints. And to me, it actually really sounds almost kind of like Neverland and from Peter Pan, not to be, not to be confused with the Neverland Ranch. That's a completely different episode.
It's interesting you say that, because I think one of Snoop Dogg's lines, and he's like, it's like Wonderland. Like,
Wonderland.
He does say that.
Wonderland. But anyways, yeah, it's kind of like the intro after the intro, but it's a cool way to really get into the album, and I think it gives you a little more of an insight of like kind of where the album's going to be going, and just kind of it's just got a smooth, funky feel. So yeah, I dig it.
No, I hear you, and then you go to White Flag, and I like this because like right off you get into another orchestral intro, but this time by the Lebanese National Orchestra for Oriental Arabic Music. And you can tell because it has obviously a really Eastern sound. There's percussion with the orchestra that you wouldn't, or at least normally that you didn't hear with the I think that's Sinfonia Viva. But again, I just think that it's so cool that he traveled to Beirut to get that. I mean, that's like, when George Harrison went to India to get that for Sgt. Pepper's. I mean, it's like a journey in and of itself. And to me, it like makes the album more special.
Definitely.
Because you probably could have faked it or just called people in, but to actually go and do that is like a statement in and of itself. I feel like.
He's like, no, I need this exact sound. It has to be this.
Like, and it's got to be recorded in Beirut, which is really cool.
Totally. Well, yeah, and I love the intro of this song. To me, it feels like I'm in like a Disney movie or something. Yeah, like it's such a kind of like a fun sort of feeling, and I find again feeling that for a lot of the songs on the album, even if they're, I don't know if I want to say serious with the the whole plastic environmental, I guess, sort of concept that you want to is in the album, but I feel like a lot of the songs do have there's some maybe a few darker moments, but a lot of them do have like kind of like this fun kind of, I don't want to say silly, but
like upbeat and
cartoony kind of feel to it. Yeah.
And, initially I wasn't sure how I felt about Bashy and Kano's rapping. Just because, and this is going to sound incredibly ignorant, so I apologize in advance, but being an American, to me, that it's like I equate rap with like voices that sound like ish. But
American English though.
Yeah.
Like American
yes.
English, yeah.
But I really came to like how thick their accents are and how it comes through in what they're saying. I really enjoy it. One of my favorite tracks. And there was one thing I always really liked about it is when the track is going, there's something that's kind of like whirling to the beat in there. I think it's some sort of a synth loop. But then every so often it stops and it just goes, you know, it like has it. I like that. That's a nice contrast for my little ears.
Well, it is interesting that you do bring up the accents though, because you and I grew up with listening to, you know, Snoop and Dre, Ice Cube, Tupac, you know, that kind of, you know, East Coast, West Coast, like, you know, rap. Right. And we're used to hearing that. But even when you listen to other musicians, at least for me, for my ears, when I listen to the Stones and the Beatles and Zeppelin and Floyd, you know, those are all like, you know, all these English musicians, and their accents aren't as prevalent. I feel like. No,
you're right. In
when
rock
they
music, I agree. I agree. It doesn't come through as much.
Yeah, but this, when I listened to it, I noticed it right away, and I thought it was actually kind of cool, like because it was just sounded different to me.
Yeah,
so
I know.
I liked it.
I know. I do too, and I really I enjoy that because it's real. It's like you know, there's not to say that when you sing rock music, you would deliberately try to get rid of the accent. I think it just happens, but I really like that it's there. Yeah,
I agree. Well, moving on to track number 4, and this seems to be one that you really like, and I'm surprised it didn't come out as a single as well. But Rhinestone Eyes, and I think this is the first one that Damon, he doesn't sing on the first two. This is the first one he actually sings on, I believe.
I think that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, there's just I think the imagery is good. Because it's not like Diamond Eyes, like rhinestones are just cheap imitations.
Or like Rhinestone Cowboy.
Yeah, yeah. And again, hearing the Farfisa, I was kind of like, yep, I'm in.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
I really like the, for, I guess his, the first time singing on the album, I really like the way he kind of sings it. I find when he does sing, a lot of the times it has this like kind of, I want to say lazy, but it has a real dreamy kind of, I don't know, inflection in tone. So kind of like he's like floating a little bit. So
I think because he doesn't push it as much, his accent comes through more so than if it was like a.
You're right,
and I like that. Okay, I like hearing that.
Now that you say that, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, you're right. He doesn't push it. Yeah. And this is, it's funny because this is the kind of, this song, it can kind of get the groove and the sound of it. It can get stuck in my head. I can find myself kind of like humming it like throughout the day. I'm like, what the hell is that? And it's this. Well, now we move on to Stylo with Most Def featuring Bobby Womack.
Yeah.
Which is,
and it's funny because cool. They're like, like rap and soul in there, right? Like they're kind of a little different weights in the balance, but I think that they really balance each other like perfectly. And I don't think you could have the song without either of them because Most Def's verses are right on. And I sometimes don't even know what Bobby Womack is singing, how it relates to the song, but it's awesome.
It doesn't matter.
It's awesome.
I know, dude.
Dude, if it's electric.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like Most Def's, like I noticed like his vocals, like when he's singing and rapping or whatever, they're a little bit, I think, off in the distance. And then when Bobby Womack comes in, he's like, dude, he just drops the soul, man. It is like boom, like right there. And I love it, man. It was just such a nice sort of surprise when I listened to it. The way it came out, it was just a really good contrast. I dig it.
Yeah, no, I do too. One of my favorites, and it had a cool video. And
this was the first single off the album. So
I get that. I mean, this song had to be a single, right?
Yeah, yeah. Then the next song we'll move on is actually the second single off the album, and that is Superfast Jellyfish. And dude, I mean, I know you gotta love the way it kind of starts with like this 1950s sort of like TV commercial kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
I think they reference it. I think it's like a something like a Hormel breakfast for like a breakfast thing.
Sounds like it. It definitely sounds like it. But to me, it's kind of a funny song too, because then even, they kind of get past the little, I guess, commercial. And then when they start, I guess, singing or rapping or whatever, like they're kind of talking about like ordering food. Isn't this the Happy Meal song or whatever?
Yeah. And he's like, I want a number 4, number 6, like the thing that I like about it too is it's like he deliberately goes out of his way to kind of sound like an idiot. Like, it comes with a toy, which is kind of like this absent-minded, just not think for yourself, go pick up the extra value meal.
That's right. Supersize that shit. Although can't supersize it anymore. You can just make it really big.
Yeah. The drinks are disproportionately large, I think, nowadays.
Dude, it is like you're getting a 2-liter. It's ridiculous. Maybe that's what Bobby Womack had or needed. Maybe that's why he's diabetic. I don't know. Sorry, Bobby. I don't know anything about that. But anyways, so for me at this point, this is kind of where the album, I don't want to say it takes a turn, but I feel like there's sort of a transition in the next few songs for me. And this next song, Empire Ants, is where I really... This song I got stuck on for a while, and because I liked it so much, I'm not scratching like the first 6 songs. Okay. I'm not saying that, but
that would be really short-sighted of you.
I found myself digging this song so much that I was just like, I found myself just like starting the album here and just like letting it go. I love how just chill it is. It's a great way. They just like, there's a part of me that's like, okay, if this was on vinyl, I hope like this is where the flip would be. Although I will say the transition between Superfast Jellyfish into Empire Ants is a really nice, just kind of crossfade transition that they do. But man, I could flip an album and really start with this side.
I know what you mean. I think this album would be too long for that, but in a different world where you could get away with it, it would be an awesome place to do that.
Yeah.
And her vocals are great. Yukumi Nagano, which I believe she's from Little Dragon.
Little Dragon, yes. I believe you are correct. Yeah.
I like too, they use it could be any number of electronic beat machine or whatever, but I like that it doesn't thump. It's kind of just like almost sounds like it's playing through a radio a little off in the distance. Like they kind of filter some of the heavy bass and stuff out of it, and it's subtle like the rest of the song. And I like he's on the acoustic guitar. I don't think you've heard one of those up until this point.
Yeah, and there's a little piano in there, very dreamy.
Oh, with the delay.
Yeah. And to me, it's just. It's such a smooth song, even in the middle when it transitions and then into her singing. Yeah, I love the way it kind of picks up. It kind of sounds like this, almost like a sort of a sci-fi scene or movie, but
it's natural. It isn't too abrupt. It really,
It's not. It doesn't turn you off. And to me, it's just. I feel like. I don't know. I just feel like, man, I could be just like floating down a river and listening to it.
And it's kind of got that what I would think of as like a Bollywood beat. That's like
okay. Yeah. I can get on board with that.
Yeah.
I can get on board with that. All right, so, let's don't hate track 8, Glitter Freeze.
Yeah.
With Mark E. Smith.
I think the only lyrics in this song is I don't know if that's Mark E. Smith. I guess I assumed it was Damon Albarn. Where he goes, where's north from here?
Yeah. Yeah, there's very few lyrics, but when he sings, and this was what I was saying earlier. I was
it says vocals,
Okay, most of the album's kind of like upbeat and fun and everything, but this actually to me actually feels a little darker, like 1984 utopian shit. Like the way, like I feel like he's singing this and saying this over kind of some like loudspeaker, that's pointed out at like all the people in the land or something like that. Like it's a little, it just kind of has that sort of feel,
like the warning, if you will, of what's.
Well, it is, and there is that kind of that synth. To me, it really sounds like an alarm, like the way it's kind of like going off.
It's like a synth meets an air raid siren.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Dude, do you remember? What it reminds me of in the movie Snatch? When there's a scene kind of like in the middle where Turkish and Tommy, they like meet with the Pikeys, and there's a scene where there's like a dog, I think it's a dog like chasing a bunny, and they like made a bet like if one would get it. And it has that same kind of siren.
I was just gonna say, like,
to
me when I hear this track, I could imagine it in a movie in like an intense kind of chase scene or something like that.
Yeah.
But then you kind of chill out a little bit, and one of my favorite songs, Some Kind of Nature, and I feel like,
dude,
Lou Reed's vocals are really dry, but I love the inflection of his voice, and I don't want to say it like you can hear his age, but you can kind of hear his age a little bit, and I like that. I think it's which is cool because it's so different.
Well, one thing, I'll say two things actually. So I'll fully admit the first couple of times I listened to this song, I didn't know that was Lou Reed. And
really?
And I'm just listening. I'm like, but I kept saying to myself, I was like, man, this really sounds like a Lou Reed song. Like, I was like, oh, maybe it was just like heavily influenced. And then I actually looked at it and I was like, oh, featuring Lou Reed. I was like, well, no shit. But dude, I dig it. And it's kind of funny because I feel like him and Damon, obviously Lou Reed's, was much older. I think he's since passed. But how I was saying earlier, like Damon sort of sings, he doesn't push it, and he sings a little lazy and stuff. I feel like that's exactly how a lot of Lou Reed stuff is. He'll sing it with that kind of reservedness and pattern sometimes, almost like a speaking kind of thing. And he does that in this song. So I thought it was kind of funny how they work together on that. And
he died only 3 years after the album came out.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
It's always a big, we should definitely be doing Transformer hopefully in 2021. So please look out for that, everyone.
It's coming
soon to a podcast near you.
So on Melancholy Hill.
Oh, which I feel the third single.
Yeah. I feel like this is really kind of a dreamy, kind of a song. And I like it for that reason.
Yeah. It just kind of flows. And this is where I think for me, I said, I kind of start with Empire Ants. This is where, again, I still like the first part, but the album to me really kind of flows a lot from this point. And again, it continues with this song, and I just like it. Again, it has kind of like this fun upbeat feel. I feel like, man, I could like go for a jog and listen to it or something outside.
I actually have been the last several days, just as my refresher before we do the podcast.
Yeah, that's good. No, definitely like this. Like this song a lot.
And then Broken, not to be confused with the 9 Inch Nails EP.
Okay, songs are the same name, obviously. How did we miss this one?
Is there a song called Broken on that EP?
Oh, there's not. I get. Okay, so songs, albums. It's kind of like, I guess we can't do that.
But I want to believe in some world that there is.
I feel like we could still do something with it. If we get desperate, we'll find a way.
But I like, one thing I like in this song is that how he references the previous song, Glitter Freeze.
A Glitter Freeze,
far
right?
Away in the yeah. I think that it really ties the room together.
Dude, nice rug, man. Yeah, absolutely. Just don't pee on it. Dude, that was the thing I really noticed as well. And I do like how it does it ties the lands together a little bit. And it's just referencing that it kind of like, oh, this other place. And so that's kind of what I was saying earlier. I think of these songs is like they're almost like their own little places and their own little characters.
Yeah.
And the people who are singing on them or performing on them are, you know, just different people and characters kind of you're meeting on the journey along the way a little bit. So like you're just like you're on this voyage. So yeah, I thought that was like just it was a nice little kind of golden nugget for sure. Sweepstakes.
Yeah.
We got Most Def again. Yeah. This is his kind of second song. That
he has really good flow on it. The one thing that always struck me was it was almost like the beat to the song was something so much that I wouldn't expect him to rap over. It almost straight like, and I think I like it for that reason because it's just unexpected. But when I remember first hearing it and thinking like, man, this just doesn't seem like something you would rap over, but you know, maybe that's the point.
But he does it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and he does it well.
From what I don't know if I read this or this is in a documentary or something I watched, but I guess he did this in one take. Or the song was done in one take or something.
Dude, I think they have, I want to say that's on the documentary.
Okay.
And one thing I like too is Most Def's in the studio with them, and there's a bunch of guys in the studio, right? And they're all in there, and he's like kind of joking around with them. And Bobby Womack is in the studio at this point, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you know, like my boy just called me. He's like, yeah, what's up, Most? What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I don't know, just hanging out in the studio with Bobby Womack." Like,
dude, that's awesome, man. Yeah, that's pretty great. Now then we kind of, I feel like this album kind of, you know how we were talking about the intro, how it has the intro and then has the Snoop Dogg one. I feel like this album kind of has like these next 4 songs are all kind of like the outro. I feel like it just like slowly fades out because Plastic Beach, you know, the song then comes in. And I just feel like the next 4 that we kind of go on are definitely just kind of like, you know, kind of just the slow fade out. Yeah. I guess. Curse Rifty fade out. So
Mick Jones is on this song, and I think we mentioned him before in talking about the Flaming Lips, because he is guitarist and other vocalists from the Clash, and his voice is so distinct because I said he narrates that whole album that the Lips did, The King's Mouth. Mm-hmm. And God, I wish they would have like put his voice on this along with his guitar playing because his voice is so fucking awesome. Like that's why you got to listen to that Lips album. Like you could just listen to him read you a story. Like his voice is so good.
Dude, that's pretty cool. Yeah, and well, as just for this song, I really really dig it. It's got this, I don't know, like in the first, I don't know, 5-10 seconds, it has this kind of sci-fi Blade Runner type feel in the beginning, and then it kind of gets in this funky groove and everything. And I don't know, I just love the way it just has a fun feel to it, man. It's
a Casio really on a plastic beach.
Right. Dude, I know.
God, I should have put batteries in this little Casio. Oh, there is batteries. Okay, so the Casio, right? This is to me, I got to get the beat going because that's really like where
isn't there just a button? Is it? Yeah, there we go.
Like that cheesy shit is the Casio on the plastic beach. You know what I mean? It's just, it's so 80s and cheesy, but it's perfect at the same time. Anyways, yeah. Well,
yes. Okay.
Dude, that's the sound right there.
That's the sound. All right, then we move on to Binge, with I guess Yukimi Nagano, and yeah, so this is like her kind of second part on the album again,
and her part of the outro. I mean, it's much slower and kind of like winding down.
Yeah,
past the mid-trip point.
Yeah. Yes.
Empire Ants is your mid-trip song. This is like
it is my mid-trip song.
Yeah, this is like where you're gonna like have another one just to kind of keep her going a little bit.
Yeah. No. Well, that's exactly when I listen to it. To me, it is like you know, and I know this is going to sound cheesy and cliche, but it's like a lounge beach song. Like I can totally just see myself just sitting on the beach. I got my cocktail with the umbrella in it, just enjoying life, man. And
Mai Tai.
It's Mai Tai, your Tai. I'm always a margarita kind of guy, but whatever. I'll drink a Mai Tai. Mix it up. Then we go to the Cloud of Unknowing, and again, now we bring Bobby Womack back again.
Yep.
So it is kind of cool. We're like revisiting characters a little bit, right?
And one thing I noticed about this one was that, okay, so you have the basis of the song, right? And then there's these specific hits, whether it's a synth or some sort of, but they are timed. And I don't know if those were in there first and Bobby Womack timed his voice with them that good, or they put him in after to match up with his voice. But I mean, he doesn't sing in a way that sounds robotic or like to a click track, but that just really struck me is how well that is synced up. Like how those hits just come in so naturally with his voice.
No, it is. I mean, dude, he's just good, man. He crushes it. His voice is just, it's so distinct and unique.
Thank God for his daughter, right?
Yeah, good. Let's give her, dude. Let's give her a shout out.
Yeah,
man.
hell yeah.
Like because he's only on the album. It looks like I think twice, but he makes his presence known, right?
Oh yeah,
like it's very distinct. And so I actually wanted to take just one quick step back in this album. I forgot to say this earlier. It kind of reminds me in a weird way of sort of like Alice in Wonderland a little bit. Like you have this.
It's like Wonderland.
And it's like Wonderland, and but you have all these different characters that we're sort of meeting along the way, and then at the end, everybody kind of comes back up again, right? And I feel like
Snoop, damn it,
Snoop, come on.
But I know
he's got to be, dude. He's got to be on the unreleased tapes, right?
Yeah.
Like,
you would hope
his comeback
for the love,
definitely. Yeah. All right, and then last track, Pirate Jet, and I have to ask you, what is that? The little springy thing, the springy instrument that the Pirate Jet song starts off with. It just sounds like a bing, 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 bing. Like what is that sound?
Jaw harp?
Maybe that's what it is. It
like sounds, at the beginning of Top 20, what Chris would play?
Yeah.
It sounds like a jaw.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's right here.
Okay.
I hate to say this, but the other it's commonly referred to as a jaw harp. Or in some cases, they would call it a Jew's harp. That is the name of it. That's not me saying slang. But yeah, it says David Coulter played that on track 16. So you are very correct, El Deuterino, in hearing the jaw harp.
TD for the win.
Yeah.
And Circle gets the square.
And then you got that riff that I was teasing on the far. And to me, that is the most distinct Farfisa sound in there when they get that. The organ part is really good.
Yep. All right, Grim. I think we're running long here. I know we got to wrap up. So
That's
I think it's about time we.
Some albums deserve more. Some albums deserve more.
Pull out something plastic to scratch this disc with.
Yeah. I think I'll go with. I think you could just take the front out and just go with a straight up Bic pen. That would work.
There you go.
I think you were on the tee last time.
Oh, I think I was, dude. You're right, and I have a feeling we're going to overtime.
I think so because you know that I would have to scratch Glitter Freeze.
Oh, we are not going to overtime, but tell me why, my friend. Tell me why. Yes.
Just because I feel like it's long, or it feels long. And
that's what she said.
Empire Ants went right into some kind of nature, I would have no problem with that. And to me, I think it's like I said, I think it would be an awesome song and a soundtrack for something. And that's the thing. Maybe had I seen them live, like I should have or should, there's a good chance that like syncs up with some really awesome footage and is something that I don't know. But for me, as just a listener of only the audio, like I guess if I had to go without one, that would be the one that wouldn't disrupt the rest of the flow of the album too much, in my opinion.
So, and I can't disagree with that, because I think I said, Empire Ants is where I love the album, and it flows. But you're right, Glitter Freeze does kind of break that up a little bit. The one I actually thought the one that breaks it up for me is Sweepstakes. That's where the album really breaks it up for me. And
dude, I considered that one, but
I really thought that's where you're gonna go.
Well, I like Mos Def's part in it. I think his lines are really good. And I think what struck me is, like I said, I would have thought about scratching it, but then every time I would hear it, I'm like, this is just like not what I would expect. But at the same time, I've never heard anything like it.
There's that. Yeah. And I think part of the reason I also could go ahead and scratch it is because he's also on Stylo, and that's like, I love that song too. So I'm like, I don't know, like nothing against Mos Def, but I'm like, okay, I could also maybe deal without two Mos Defs, but
okay.
For me, it just kind of breaks the flow a little bit. So yeah, Mos Def. So interesting, man. I am very surprised.
I thought we were going to OT as well. I really did. I was really looking forward to using the sound effect. Maybe we'll just throw it in at the end just because.
All right. Well, I guess the Islanders and Capitals will have to wait. So
yeah.
All right.
The series has been decided.
The Islanders win the series and the game. Well, I think that wraps up Plastic Beach. So I'm going to go lay on my Plastic Beach and have a drink, I think, because it's Thursday, but it's Friday for me anyways. So enjoy it. Well, thank you everyone for listening. We appreciate your time. Please like and subscribe, and, tell your friends and all your folks all about us, because we think people should know. So if you're a music fan, we got more stuff coming on Monday and the day after that and the day after that. So check out our back catalog.
Yeah.
Especially Crawling King Snake.
I just think everyone wasn't ready yet.
I just misunderstood.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend. Peace out.
Scratch a Track is produced by the Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by More. That's ... and